So this video is about physical and chemical properties and physical and chemical changes. And the first thing we're going to go over is physical properties. This is pretty easy. Properties of a substance that can be observed. You just got to look at it. So you look, color. Texture. So there's so many different things. Odor. Is it soft or hard? Is it malleable or ductile? Don't forget, ductile means able to roll up into wire. Malleable means you can bend it in shape. Is it soluble? Does it dissolve? So we put some ionic compound, which is salt, in here. And it dissolves. And one of the final things is, does it conduct electricity or not? So these are all things you can observe, you can look at and see. So once again, color, texture, odor, soft, hard, malleable, ductile, soluble, insoluble, conducts electricity. These are all physical properties. Now, there's another way for physical properties other than being observed. It's called measured. If you can measure something, that would be a physical property. So we're going to do that next. So this is letter B under physical properties. And this is a good one. Properties of a substance that can be measured. But measuring it will not change the composition of the substance. Okay? So what things can we measure from a substance? We can measure the density, and then some physical properties like boiling points, freezing points, condensation points, melting points. And these are all things we can measure, but they absolutely do not change the composition of the substance. Okay, so these are physical properties. Two things, observation and measured. Okay, so now let's go to physical changes. So this is Roman numeral 2, physical changes. We just did physical properties, now it's physical changes. So remember, the composition still remains the same. So metals, if we do this, boom, if we bend it like this, malleable or ductile, that's a physical change because it was straight before. Non-metals are brittle. If I drop a piece of sulfur on the ground, it will shatter. So that's what brittle means. Phase changes. It doesn't change the substance, but it is a physical change. Melting, boiling, freezing, condensing, and sublime. All right? And if we have a piece of paper and we tear a piece of paper and tear it in half, that's a physical change. So tearing, crumbling, ripping, and breaking. All these are physical changes. It does not change the composition of the substance. But now we are going to go into chemical properties and chemical changes, and it's way different than this. So this is Roman numeral 3. We just got done with physical properties and physical changes. This is chemical properties. Totally different than physical. because in chemical, when a substance does change its chemical composition. So in physical, it didn't. But chemical does change and it produces a new product. So here are just a couple of the ways for chemical properties. The big one is when iron or many other metals come in contact with O2 and moisture, they rust. That is most definitely a chemical property of the substance. Hydrogen gas explodes, that is a chemical property. When leaves turn colors during the fall, that's a chemical property, okay? When gunpowder explodes, that's a chemical property. If there is an odor coming from somewhere, that's a chemical property. Okay, so just remember, for chemical properties, you get a new product. All right? When a substance can produce a new product, that's a chemical property. Now let's go into chemical changes. Almost the same thing. Roman numeral 4, chemical changes. It's almost the same as chemical properties. Something changes composition. So a chemical change can also be called a chemical reaction. And in a chemical reaction, you have reactants and products. The products are different from the reactants, okay? So when a substance changes into a new product from its reactants, burning, rotting, exploding, corrosion, which is rust, leaves turning colors, eggs rotting, formation of a gas or a precipitate. And we have one more type, a change in energy. And we're going to put that down right now. So this is a change in energy. If there's a change in energy, it's a chemical change. The energies, heat, light, electrical, sound, any type of energy like that, if there's a change in that, it is a chemical change. Okay? So the physical properties and changes, the composition doesn't change. But in chemical properties and changes, the composition of what we started with is not the same composition of what it ends up with. We get a new product with way different properties. Okay? So that's physical and chemical changes and properties.